Welcome to Ritualistically Botanica. My name is Mo and I'm your host. Tonight, we're going to frame this magnificent, magical, almost total partial lunar eclipse, and we're going to break down the astrology surrounding it piece by piece. Because we're not merely having a full moon. We have full moons all the time. We even have lunar eclipses regularly. But what I do not think we do sufficiently is stop and examine the intricate magical machinery surrounding them. We say there's an eclipse in Pisces. Pay attention to your dreams, drink some water, and try not to text your ex. Wonderful. But what degree is it occupying? Who rules that degree? Whose face is the moon wearing? Whose territory has she entered? What fixed star is sitting beside her? What planets are pulling on her? Where is the pressure coming from, and where is it trying to go? That is what we are going to do today. We're not standing outside looking at the house. We're opening the door, walking through the foyer, and seeing who or what is living inside. And I hope you like mermaids. I happen to be particularly fond of dark Capricornian mermaids. The ones who have seen some things. As above, so below. As within, so without. As without, so within. Mountain and ocean, ambition and ancestral memory, the visible achievement and the invisible forces underneath it. That is the creature waiting inside this eclipse. So let us open the first door. This eclipse takes place at approximately 4 degrees 54 minutes of Pisces. It begins tonight, which is Thursday evening, the planetary day belonging to Jupiter. Now, the civil calendar changes at midnight, but the traditional planetary day does not. A planetary day begins at sunrise and continues until the following sunrise. Therefore, although the eclipse reaches maximum shortly after midnight, technically Friday, which is Venus's day, according to the clock, it reaches maximum during Jupiter's planetary day before sunrise. So keep that in your pocket because we're going to need it. Why? Because Jupiter is a traditional ruler of Pisces. The eclipse occurs in Jupiter's sign during Jupiter's planetary day. And where is Jupiter while all of this is happening? Jupiter is in Leo. Leo is the sign of the performer, the theater, the sovereign, the celebrity, the creative personality, and the luminary whose light becomes larger than private life. We have entered through only one door, and Jupiter has already rented us a theater. But Pisces contains 30 degrees from 0 to 29, and those 30 degrees do not all answer to precisely the same planetary authorities. This eclipse falls in the first 10 degrees of Pisces, the first decan, traditionally called the first face. Who rules the first face of Pisces? Saturn. There's our sea goat. The moon is a feminine body. She represents physical rhythms, memory, emotional life, instinct, ancestry, and the way experience enters the body before the mind has found language for it. Now place that feminine moon inside Pisces in a face ruled by Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, the sea goat. What creature have we created? A female sea goat, a cosmic mermaid. She has one part of herself connected to physical existence, gravity, time, and the consequences of incarnation. The other part swims through dreams, memories, impressions, and the entire invisible ocean beneath the conscious awareness. She can climb the mountain. She can descend into the sea. She knows that the height and the depth are not opposites. They are two ends of the same creature. Are you interested yet? You should be. We have barely crossed the foyer because this moon at 4 degrees of Pisces is not swimming alone. She is conjunct Fomalhaut, one of the 4 royal stars traditionally associated with ancient Persia and later Arabic astrological lore. The name Fomalhaut comes from Arabic and means the mouth of the fish. It belongs astronomically to Pisces Astrinius. I might have mispronounced that. Excuse me. This is not one of the 2 fishes associated with the zodiac sign of Pisces. It is a separate celestial creature located beneath Aquarius, the water bearer. In old images, Aquarius pours water from a vessel, and the great southern fish waits below with its mouth open, drinking the water that pours from heaven. Now look at the sky we have tonight. Pluto is in Aquarius. The eclipsed moon is at the mouth of the great southern fish. The water bearer pours, the fish receives, and this cosmic mermaid has opened her mouth. What is she drinking? What is being poured into collective consciousness? What are we receiving before we have the language to explain it? Fomalhaut has been associated astrologically with imagination, poetry, mysticism, enchantment, vision, and messages arriving from beyond the ordinary mind. But it carries a condition. The gift remains clean only when the intention remains clean. That does not mean you have to be morally perfect. If heaven required moral perfection before speaking to us, it would be a very quiet sky. It means we must examine why we want the message. Do we want to receive something that can serve the soul? Or do we want evidence that we are more magical, more chosen, and more cosmically important than everybody else? The soul asks, what can I carry back to shore? The ego asks, how special does this make me? Fomalhaut knows the difference, but we are not finished with 4 degrees Pisces. The degrees also falls inside the Egyptian bound or term of Venus. The Egyptian bounds divide each sign into 5 unequal territories, each governed by one of the 5 traditional planets other than the sun and moon. The first 12 degrees of Pisces belong to Venus. So the moon is in Jupiter's house wearing Saturn's face while standing inside Venus's private territory. Jupiter provides meaning and expansion. Saturn provides time, age, consequence, and mortality. Venus provides art, music, beauty, love, and the power of affection to preserve what the body can no longer hold. And Venus is exalted in Pisces. She is not merely visiting. Pisces is the place where Venus becomes something larger than personal desire. Love becomes compassion, beauty becomes transcendence, music becomes memory. Art becomes the vessel through which somebody continues speaking after the physical voice has stopped. And where is Venus during this eclipse? Venus is in Libra, her own sign. The bound lord of the eclipsed moon is dignified. Saturn may close the physical chapter, but Venus preserves what was loved. That is one reason the deaths of Dolly Parton and Tim Curry echo so unmistakably through this eclipse. Both died at 80. Both were artists. Both left bodies of work behind, capable of carrying their presence forward after Saturn collected the physical form. Saturn ends the performance. Venus preserves the song, the laughter, the lipstick, the costume, and the memory of how we felt while watching. But remember, nothing in astrology exists alone. Nothing in life exists alone. Everything is relational. Everything is binary. If something tickles you over here, eventually you're going to feel it over there. Opposite the eclipse moon at approximately 4 degrees Pisces stands the sun at approximately 4 degrees of Virgo. The moon occupies the first face of Pisces ruled by Saturn. The sun occupies the first face of Virgo, and that face is ruled by the sun. So the sun is wearing its own face. But Virgo belongs to Mercury. Mercury rules by domicile. Mercury is also exalted in Virgo. And the first 7 degrees of Virgo also fall inside the Egyptian bound of Mercury. Mercury owns the sign. Mercury owns the bound. Mercury has just passed through the heart of the sun in a Cassimi. Mercury does not merely rent a room on the Virgo side of this eclipse. Mercury owns the building, the land underneath it, and the little company that manufactured the clipboard. Because Fomalhaut has traditionally been described as having a Venus-Mercury nature. Look at the symmetry. The sky doesn't lie. It's always communicating. You just have to learn how to read the language. The moon in Pisces occupies the bound of Venus. The opposing sun in Virgo occupies the bound of Mercury. Fomalhaut contains the symbolism of both Venus and Mercury. Venus receives through beauty, feeling, music, and imagination. Mercury translates what Venus receives into language, information, and meaning. Pisces opens the channel. Virgo examines what came through it. Pisces says, I dreamed something. Virgo says, write it down before you embellish it. Pisces receives the invisible impression. Virgo asks whether it can be made useful. That is the binary conversation of this eclipse. The open mouth is not an instruction to swallow everything. Let me say that again. Opening yourself spiritually does not require abandoning discernment. Mercury, the mind. Every intuition is not prophecy. Every dream is not a divine command. Every frightened thought is not your ancestors issuing a weather advisory. Pisces receives, Virgo filters. This is how the message stays clean. And the tarot decans tell the same story. The first face of Pisces corresponds to the Eight of Cups, Saturn in Pisces. The figure has completed an emotional chapter and is walking away from 8 standing cups. Something meaningful is being left behind, not necessarily because it was worthless. Sometimes we leave because its part in our journey is complete. Now, opposite it, the first face of Virgo corresponds to the Eight of Pentacles, the Sun in Virgo. The work, the craft, the repetition required to develop mastery, the tangible body of effort left behind. The Eight of Cups faces the Eight of Pentacles. The people leave, what they made remains. And now we reach the larger geometry. Because this cosmic mermaid is not floating peacefully in a private lagoon. 2 of the slowest planets in the sky are pulling an enormous configuration across the chart. Pluto is at approximately 3 degrees of Aquarius. Neptune is at approximately 3 degrees of Aries. Pluto and Neptune are sextile one another, approximately 60 degrees apart, and their sextile is extraordinarily close, within roughly 11 minutes of arc. Now, we have already discussed sextiles as doors back when we unpacked the barbell basket. A sextile describes an available channel of cooperation, an opportunity. The possibility exists, but it must be consciously used. You must participate with. Pluto in Aquarius is transforming collective power, technology, institutions, communities, networks, and the machinery determining how people will live together, the larger world. Neptune in Aries is igniting imagination, belief, and spiritual identity. It's opening something up. It can describe inspiration becoming action. It can also describe delusion becoming militant, so please do not hand Neptune a weapon and assume everything will work itself out. Pluto says the collective machinery must transform. Neptune says a new vision is entering the world. These 2 planets understand each other well enough to open a door, but both of them are approximately 150 degrees from the Virgo sun. And that 150 degree aspect is called a quincunx, or an inconjunct. A quincunx connects signs that share no element, no modality, and no polarity. They have no obvious common language. This is not a comfortable disagreement where everybody sits down, has coffee, and reaches a sensible compromise. Quincunx demands repeated adjustment. Pluto in Aquarius is quincunx the Virgo sun. Pluto and Neptune remain sextile at the base. That creates the long, narrow triangle called a yod, known as the finger of God. The Sun and Mercury in Virgo form the very apex. That's the tip, the fingertip of the yod. That's the fingertip of the yod. That fingertip is where the demands of Pluto and Neptune converge. Pluto says transform the entire system. Neptune says receive the emerging vision. And then Mercury in Virgo says, that sounds fascinating, but how exactly will it work? How do we translate an enormous invisible vision into physical reality? How do we reorganize systems without losing the human beings living inside of them? How do we distinguish spiritual inspiration from projection, fantasy, or manipulation? How does the body absorb a future arriving faster than the nervous system can process it? That's the world we're in right now, globally. That's why we feel so pushed and pulled and stressed and shaken. The earth itself is feeling it. The tornadoes, the sudden roaring floods from rivers because glaciers are falling into it, the earthquakes. It's not quiet. And even if it isn't happening in your hometown, if you're watching it, you're feeling it, it's rattling you too on all kinds of subliminal levels. All that pressure concentrates at the Virgo apex. Health, labor, information, discernment, practical systems, and the consequences of what we choose to believe. Some people just scroll on. It's not going to affect me. until it does. That astrology alone would give us a powerful yod. But this yod has something standing directly opposite its apex, the eclipse Pisces moon. When a planet stands opposite the apex of a yod, astrologers call the configuration a boomerang yod. Why a boomerang? Because the pressure does not remain trapped in the fingertip. Pluto and Neptune send their two quincunxes toward the Virgo sun and Mercury. Virgo receives the pressure and attempts to analyze, organize, and contain it. But the moon stands directly opposite. The concentrated force reaches the apex and then appears to be thrown back across the chart toward the opposing moon, like a boomerang changing direction and returning along the axis. So the Virgo sun is the pressure point. The Pisces moon is the reaction point, the release valve. The finger of God points towards Virgo, but the cosmic mermaid grabs the finger from the opposite side and pulls. The pressure is discharged through the eclipsed moon at Fomalhaut, through dreams, emotion, grief, collective memory, spiritual belonging, and information received before it can be rationally explained. This does not mean that a literal bomb of astrological energy is going to detonate in your living room. We are describing symbolic pressure, but where 4 degrees of Pisces falls in your chart tells us where that pressure seeks emotional release. So the opposing Virgo house tells us where adjustment, discernment, and practical correction are being demanded. The finger points towards Virgo. The boomerang releases through Pisces. But wait, you didn't think we were finished, did you? Because we're not. See, Uranus is sitting at approximately 5 degrees of Gemini, squaring 90 degrees aspect, both sides of the eclipse. Uranus squares the Virgo sun and Mercury. Uranus also squares the Pisces moon. That creates a mutable T-square. So while Pluto and Neptune stretch the finger of God toward Virgo and the Pisces moon pulls it from the opposite end, Uranus reaches in from Gemini and shakes the entire arm. That is why this configuration does not merely point, it wiggles. Uranus brings sudden developments, interruptions, shocks, awakenings, technology, information, media, nervous system agitation, and news arriving from a direction nobody thought to monitor. And remember, these are outer planets, so they deal with the world we're embedded in and mundane events. Geopolitical, economic. Gemini moves information, Uranus electrifies it, Mercury tries to organize it and make sense out of it. Pisces absorbs it emotionally. So this may feel like strange dreams, sudden realizations, unexpected conversations, technological failures, information overload, or a nervous system trying to process through reality simultaneously. And yes, the primary boomerang release occurs through the Pisces moon. But Uranus in Gemini acts as the lightning rod, the sideways vent through which the tension can become visible as news, communication, technological disruption, or a sudden change in perception. That means there are several sensitive areas to locate in your chart. Where is approximately 4 degrees of Pisces? That is the emotional release point, the mouth of the mermaid. Where is approximately 4 degrees of Virgo? That is the yod's apex, the place demanding adjustment, facts, method, and discernment. Where is approximately 5 degrees of Gemini? That is where Uranus may bring interruption, awakening, or information that changes the pattern unexpectedly by surprise. And what lies near those degrees in your natal chart? Do you have planets or angles between approximately 1 and 9 degrees of Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sagittarius? Those placements may experience this configuration more personally and more directly. This is why you need an accurate natal chart. Your chart is not simply a decorative wheel showing that you are a Sagittarius who likes books and occasionally becomes impatient. It is a map of where these forces intersect in the architecture of your life. The sky tells us what the weather is doing. Your houses tells us where the weather enters the building. Does this eclipse land in your first house of identity and body, your 4th house of home and ancestry, your 7th house of partnership, your 10th house of public life and vocation? The same eclipse speaks differently depending upon where it lands. If you do not have a reliable birth time, do not allow an application to manufacture a trustworthy ascendant in houses from information you do not possess. A noon chart can still show many planetary positions and aspects, but it cannot give you dependable house placement, so you won't know where in your life this is happening. That is when rectification becomes important. You begin by gathering significant dated events: marriages, births, deaths, relocations, graduations, accidents, business openings, and major changes in family or career in your life. You jot them down. A skilled astrologer works backward from those events, testing possible birth times until the angles and timing techniques consistently describe the life that you're actually living. It can require substantial work. That is why competent rectification costs money. Knowledge is power, my dear, but accurate knowledge is considerably more useful than something an app made up because we were in a hurry. I have completed the house-by-house interpretation of this eclipse for every Pisces Virgo axis. That detailed personal breakdown will be available to my paid Substack subscribers. If you want to know where the finger of God is pointing in your life, where the cosmic mermaid is pulling it, and where Uranus may shake the entire configuration, come over to Substack and locate your houses. The public YouTube video teaches you the cosmology. The paid Substack article helps you bring that cosmology into your personal chart, because you do not exist as an isolated creature sitting on a chair or standing on a floor. You are embedded within a vast interaction of forces: physical, emotional, psychological, ancestral, social, and spiritual. Some are moving quietly. Some are pressing against one another. Some are opening doors. Some are shaking the goddamn building. Astrology gives us a way to glimpse which forces are most active, where they are gathering, and how we might respond with maximum awareness and minimum unnecessary chaos. It does not remove uncertainty. It gives uncertainty a map. Tonight, the water bearer pours, the great southern fish opens its mouth, the cosmic mermaid drinks, and the finger of God points towards Virgo. The moon pulls it back through Pisces. Uranus shakes it from Gemini, and Mercury stands in the middle, asking us to name what we have received. Stay open, but do not swallow everything. Let Pisces receive the message. Let Virgo examine it. Let Mercury give it language, and let Venus preserve what is beautiful. Let Saturn show you what has completed its time. Then ask the only question that keeps Fomalhaut's water clean. Am I drinking this for the ego, or am I carrying something useful back to shore? Here's an example exactly of where this would land if you happen to have a Libra rising. Let me give you one example so you can see how the celestial machinery might operate inside an actual life. We will use Libra rising. Now, using whole sign houses, Libra becomes the first house. That places Pluto and Aquarius in the fifth house. So creativity, children, grandchildren, romance, pleasure, and the work through which you express your individual spark is the font from where the water bearer is pouring. Neptune and Saturn and Aries fall in the seventh house. That's marriage, partnerships, clients, contracts, and the people standing directly across from you. Also open in there is where opportunity may come from. The Virgo Sun and Mercury, the point of the finger of God, fall in the 12th house. The unconscious mind, hidden patterns, isolation, spiritual work, private preparation, and everything happening behind the curtain. Think about it. You might experience a lot of synchronicities. Remember the warning: don't drink from all the waters. Directly opposite them, the eclipse, Pisces moon, and Fomalhaut fall in the 6th house. That's the body, health, daily routines, work, service, and the small repeated habits that either support your life or quietly dismantle. Uranus in Gemini lands in the 9th house. That's beliefs, teaching, writing, publishing, higher knowledge, spirituality, travel, and the stories through which you explain life to yourself. It's also where blessings come from. That's what's going to be shaped. Jupiter in Leo occupies the 11th house: community, audiences, friendships, networks, and the future you are attempting to create. That's the theater that you're walking into. And Venus in Libra sits in the 1st house. That's your identity, appearance, voice, and the way you enter the world. Now let's make that human. Suppose a Libra rising person is experiencing enormous transformation around a creative project. a child or grandchild or something deeply personal they are trying to bring into the world. That is Pluto transforming the fifth house. At the same time, relationships are shifting. A partner may need something different. A contract may be unclear. Somebody may be leaving, arriving, or changing the terms of the relationship. Neptune can blur the boundaries, while Saturn demands that those boundaries finally be defined. Both situations place pressure on the 12th house. The person may feel mentally overwhelmed, privately exhausted, or drawn into intense spiritual and psychological work. They may need solitude, but keep every moment with distraction. Something unconscious is attempting to become conscious, and Mercury in Virgo wants it identified precisely, but the pressure does not stay hidden. The boomerang releases through the sixth house. The body responds. Sudden illness, intestinal issues. The schedule begins falling apart. The person cannot concentrate. Sleep changes. Work becomes overwhelming. Health or daily responsibilities demand attention. The cosmic mermaid rises through the routines and says, "Darling, whatever you refuse to acknowledge privately, I am going to write across your body and your calendar." Then Uranus in the ninth house shakes the entire configuration. A new belief arrives. A piece of information changes the person's understanding. They begin teaching, publishing, or studying something unexpected. The message may arrive through a book, a dream, a conversation, a spiritual experience, or one astonishing idea that reorganizes everything they thought they knew. And Jupiter in the 11th house says this revelation is not intended to remain private. It wants an audience, a community, or a larger network. Do you see how the chart becomes a living story? The creative life is transforming. Relationships are being renegotiated. The conscious mind is under pressure. The body and daily routine become the release point. A new philosophy shakes the structure, and the resulting wisdom moves outward toward what should this Libra rising do? Clarify the relationship agreement. Stop ignoring the body. Create a realistic daily structure. Protect private time. Write down what emerges from the subconscious. Then teach, publish, or share what has been learned. That is how you work with the configuration instead of merely allowing it to drag you through the underwater foyer by your ankles. This is only one rising sign. Like I said, if you want to know where these planets land in your chart and what this eclipse may activate in your life, I have broken down all 12 house configurations for my paid subscribers on Substack. Find your rising sign, locate the mermaid. Knowledge is power, my dear, and it is considerably easier to cooperate with the cosmic force once you know which room of your house she's swimming through. Now, that's it. That's all I've got for you. Bye now.